Sure. 10 minutes, isn't that right?
I'll give some grace 10 minutes. Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in. And, you know, like all your peers from the other banks, I have a certain amount of sympathy for you in this regard only, and it's that you're the meat in the sandwich. Where are your boards of directors? They direct your banks. They direct the financial sector. And they're the guys who signed off on the behaviour, policies and strategies of the banks leading up to 2008. They're the guys who architected and designed the balance sheets that led to weighted average loans to deposit ratios of 170%. RBS was between 135 and 140, steady for several years. That means that the only ingredients in the credit bubble, and a credit bubble is what causes the asset price bubble. And that's what people live in, the houses that are priced in markets. And the cumulative derogation by the boards of banks during that 6 years meant a cumulative turbocharged rise in asset prices. When they collapse, the loans are still there, 100%. That's what's shocking. That's what's unjust. And if you had kept, as a sector, there's nothing personal in this, but I wish the directors were here. They're getting big fees. And they're deciding, they're telling you guys what to do. They're telling you to try and fight a fight with limited ammunition and your hands tied behind your backs because they haven't stood up and matched up to the responsibilities. The lethal cocktail, your bank had tracker mortgages. Bank of Ireland whinged that more than half their mortgages are tracker, and they're loss-making. Whose big idea was it to give them if they were going to be loss-making? Was it a way to get market share for 3 years and then switch everybody into variable rate loans and asset prices would stay up there? That could never have happened in the Ponzi scheme they created. Couldn't have happened. And now the citizens are financial galley slaves. Arthur Spring and his generation. I'm lucky. My youngest is 23, 22. And the other one is in Australia. And that's the figure. That's why you've an anomaly that you're wondering why are the arrears rising when, you know, unemployment is falling? Because there's emigration, and the people who are stuck here unemployed are the people who are getting into deeper doodah in their debt. The lethal cocktail of the tracker mortgages, which all the banks raced like lemmings over the cliff to do into loss-making products, are still out there. And they have a problem, and it's a capital problem. And Bank of Ireland this morning said to me, Peter, that, you know, the provisions of AIB at 18.5% of their total loan book of 89 billion is different than us. We're not actually comparable to them because we've a different spread of risk and portfolio. I don't believe that, and you know why? Because they had in the original listing in September 2009 under the PwC list of runners and riders for NAMA, 16 billion to go into NAMA, gross loans. And you know what they changed in 3 months? Suddenly their portfolio had improved. Only 12 billion of gross loans went into NAMA. Why? My suspicion is they wanted to stay out of majority state control. That's what all the banks were trying to do at the time. Because they actually didn't understand that the Ponzi scheme of credit, building up this wall of asset prices that was going to collapse and leave the loans out there on families and businesses crushed and distressed and demoralized. And my heart goes out to them, to the individual families, to the breadwinners, to the people receiving less income.
Question.
And, you know, Professor Barrett is right. Those standard financial statements, you had them before the bubble, during the boom. What happened to them then? What sort of minds were working? Were they cocaine fueled rather than credit fueled? At the top. I'm talking about at the top. But it's a very serious responsibility where we've been left. And you know what? Bank of Ireland had 61 billion of of senior secured debt in their balance sheet in March 2008. That is nearly the amount of money that the Troika programme has lent the country. One bank had senior secured debt, giving this credit-fueled bubble into asset prices that were going to collapse. That's all whittled down now. And do you know who paid the bonds? The Euro system, the Central Bank of Ireland, and the European Central Bank gave the busted banks, the zombie banks, which are remaining zombie, the money, the cash to pay the bondholders. Even the funds managers, the hedge fund guys, couldn't believe it. They thought, is the world gone mad? They expected the bondholders to take a bath. They didn't. And the ECB stepped in first, followed by the CBI, followed by the creation of pro-notes with the joint sign-off and signature of our governor of the central bank. 3 waves of pro-notes totaling 31 billion. And then when we came to the big deal, there was no deal earlier this year. That had to have come about. It was given to us because Ireland couldn't have survived without the pro-note being converted into 40-year series of 40-year bonds for this equivalent amount. And the liability to the euro system is still there. We should be going in there with our shirts off and our sleeves rolled up and saying to Mr. Draghi, listen here, it's all wrong, 75 billion of loss, actually it's 100 billion in the 6 Irish banks, and in your bank, Jim, it's 15, 16 billion, and your loan book peaked at about 50-ish billion. Yeah, so my figures are right. Bank of Ireland is in cloud cuckoo land thinking that an 8% provisioning on a loan book of 95 billion today is enough. It's just nuts. When they've only got about 26% of that overall loan book in normal businesses that are producing goods and services, businesses and so on and so forth. The rest is all property related somehow, mortgages to let, construction, development, investment property. Joe Higgins is right. You're right, Richard. Stephen Donnelly's right. Sean Barrett's right. But the great gap in this is not one single outside director, only you guys. And it's tough, I know. I've worked in banking. This is why I understand what I'm saying. I had to do the collections in ICC Bank. It's off the map now. That was a bank, Sean, you said we need banks now to help SMEs that understand business and industry. That's what ICC Bank did. Equity Bank, now HBOS, they took it over and trashed it. And they're now sinking. And they're writing off between 45 and 50 of the entire loan book of that bank as they settle their
Deputy,
debts.
you have 2 minutes left. If you want to put a question, I'll take it, but I'll just bring...
Yeah, I think it's unfair too. The staff in your banks are distressed. And why is there no communications? Because, as we said, people are frightened. And do you know why? I ring up, and luckily, I've just got a current account on, I ring up Bank of Ireland, Stud Organ, where I've been, and do you know where my call goes? To a customer services person in a call centre in Limerick. The thing is mad. You banks paid millions. You paid millions to consultants, to management consultants to tell you how to run your businesses, and you can't even internally communicate. They don't know in Limerick if I'm 62 or 22. They just hear a voice. And yet I've been a customer for 45 years. This is where it's all gone mad. And you say people won't engage. Why should they? They're getting letters. They don't know who's writing them. They ring up, they go to a call center, there's a menu of 6, there's music while you're on hold. The thing is mad. Just mad. You know? And David Duffy, I repeat this because I said to Richie Boucher, mortgage is a loan secured on an asset. And if all things are equal, and if, for instance, multiples of earnings and all those things, the guidelines and prudential loans to deposit over the fluxion of time are held at 90%, it can't happen. A credit bubble, you know it, Jim, it cannot actually happen. Mathematically, it can't. But the boards, in all their stupidity, let it happen. And boy, did they let it rip. And they compounded it by saying, we'll give you those tracker mortgages, which are loss makers. And these are the guys who are supposed to now vet how people will get back on their feet, the guys who made the mess. It's unbelievable. 66 and 2/3%, mathematically, 66 and 2/3% of the loans advanced during the course of the bubble should actually be written off because they're for the account of the banks. The customers can't go out there and create credit for themselves. They receive credit, and in turn the banks get it from the investors, from the senior secured debt in the case of Bank of Ireland, 61 billion hosed at the Bank of Ireland, which in turn hosed it at the people and said, come on in, tracker mortgages, if you want your house. And they presumed and told people that even if house prices stay the same, they didn't say, we're creating a bonsai scheme and it's going to burst.
Deputy Mathews, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Deputy Michael Creed.
One last question.
No, you're on time.
Receivers. How many property receivers have you got appointed?
Deputy, no, I'm not going to allow you to do that. You were given 10 minutes to ask a question and you didn't. Deputy Michael Creed.
Chairman, thank you.